want to talk about red flags today. Red flags in projects. You're delivering projects, and we very much want to focus on real world stuff. So you're delivering a project. How do you know that it's a red flag project? What do you do about it? Can you turn it around from a red flag project? That's what we're going to get into today. So, Alina, what is a red flag project?
For me, a red flag project it's one of those projects where things are going wrong, where issues and risks keep coming up, but sometimes they're a bit more subtle than that. So it could be that you're trying to put a point across and you're not being heard, and you know that if nobody listens to you, that's going to escalate and escalate and escalate. So it could be, I guess, the beginning of what is going to become a risk or an issue, but the fact that no one's paying attention to you is a red flag, is an example of that.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. And another thing that makes it a red flag is that it will have little to no governance, and you're kind of left on your own to do whatever it is you're doing. And let's also be really, really real, Alina, in that when these red flag projects are happening, sometimes they work out okay, don't they?
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes they work out okay. You can see all these little dumpster fires happening, but it works out okay. However, when it doesn't work out okay, and I'll say that it's a higher percentage that it won't work out okay with a red flag project. When it doesn't work out okay, all that you are responsible and all that blame heaps right onto you. So even though you might have a sponsor that's saying to you, just go with it, no. You need to do your best to try and rein it in. So Alina, talks a bit more about some of the signs of a red flag project.
I think one of the things you just mentioned was with regards to governance. Just taking that a bit wider, if there's no framework for you to follow, if there are no proper documents, templates, there's no change control process, and you can see people talking about things that weren't originally in your project, it's a red flag. And you've got no means, because there's no governance or no framework, to then control things. So it's when people, one of the elements is when colleagues, stakeholders start talking about something that's a little bit left or a little bit right field of what it is you're actually delivering, and you've got no structure to hone it in on. That's a red flag.
Okay, so let's try and filter this through a lens of an actual project. So you have a digital project going on. You are getting to the stage where you need to test, and interesting things are happening. Tell us a bit more about that.
I think sometimes, obviously, everybody comes with their own knowledge, their own understanding, and their own experience. But in this particular case, they didn't have a effective UAT process, by which they only wanted to test systems. They only wanted to test processes. They didn't want to test the system. The rationale being that the system was out of the box. So any of us who have worked digitally in any form of IT capacity knows that, the wonders of buying a system out of the box does not mean that you take it out and it is just going to work.
Exactly.
We wish it did work like that, but I don't know. Have you ever delivered a project where you've taken something out of the box and it's just gone, oh, wonderful, works, first time?
Nope. No matter what the consultancy says to you as they're selling you the project, and I've worked consultancy side a lot of times, there is no plug and play system.
Ever. But the red flag here is that nobody wants to listen to that experience, and everybody's assuming that it is going to be fine. So there's only so much you can do. You can talk to your stakeholders, you can talk to suppliers, but it also depends on what your role is in the project. But the idea is to try to get somebody to see reason, rationale, get the suppliers to give previous case studies of where it has worked directly out the box with no UAT, whatever you can do to prove that actually it's not really a good idea. But the fact that nobody wants to listen and nobody wants to look at expertise is a big red flag of how things are going to fail.
Okay, so breaking that down into action. So if you are the client side or end user side project manager, and you need to do UAT and there's been no system testing beforehand, you need to, as Alina said, take that to your board and make sure, try your best to get them to listen, state the reasons why this is important. And if they refuse and say, no, it's okay, make sure that it is documented as a decision, so that if you now on a go live day, you have a system that literally is blowing up with P1 bugs, it has been documented that this was a decision that was made. Now, if you are the project manager on the consultancy side and your customer is wanting to barrel through without proper system testing, again, you need to raise that, and you need to raise that with the client or end user side project manager, and you need to raise that internally so that your account manager knows this as well, and can sometimes they can take it to a new level. So let's say, for instance, you don't have a director on your project board. The account manager could take it, escalate it to that level, making sure that really senior eyes are aware of this. And again, if that doesn't work, because all these steps, there's no guarantees, right, that it will work. If that doesn't work, again, your final action is to make sure it's documented as a decision so that when that thing happens, it's there right there that you did your job and did it well in raising this issue.
Indeed. Projects fail. We don't want your project to fail. That can be somebody else's.
Yeah, exactly.
What about red flags in terms of project scope or change control? Have you experienced anything around that, Honor?
Yes, exactly. When you've got a project board, but you've got a stakeholder who basically he running things. You know, it's him and his voice alone that is getting heard. And this stakeholder, at first it seems like little things, doesn't it, Alina? But steadily, taking the project away from what it was actually supposed to do, and basically getting all his pet things into the project. And what you need to do is to make sure that you are following the change control process. And this is where you need to be developing your skills of influence, your skills of negotiation, and I don't know what they call it, but your skills of not backing down.
Yeah, resilience.
Thank you, Alina. Resilience, right? Your skills of resilience and not backing down. So I've had it where, yes, they just keep bringing in their own things and trying again. It's such a huge flag when they try to just wave away all sorts of any type of process, due diligence. And so you have to make sure that you should have a change control process, follow that change control process.
However, what do you do? Because I've got situations with graduates where they're in a organisation and environment which, it doesn't have a mature PMO and there's no change control process. What would you advise them to do?
Okay, this is tricky, right? Because as they say, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so this is why we are very much trying to get you to understand not just the theory of working on projects, but the actuality and how you need to understand to scale up, scale down. So that's one of the great things of being in the collective. So our community for people working in projects, if you were in the collective, you would come in, you would be able to put this problem to the group and get ideas on what you should do. Now, taking it back to that real life scenario, hopefully those people, they've studied the theory. They should know that you should have a change control process. Now, this is where you now show your leadership and say, hey, we need a pause here. There is no change control process, but I know that a change control process should be like this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm proposing that this is what we need to do to make sure that this is in line with what this project is about. So you have to step up, take leadership. It might seem scary, as you said, they're graduates, right? It might seem scary, but this is what you have to do, because sometimes, you have a lot of money in your project. And as I said, when things go right, nobody cares how it got there.
Yeah.
But when they
Exactly.
go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, in this instance, obviously, these graduates have been very lucky, I might say, because I'm there as a mentor.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things whereby if you have mentoring or coaching with us on a one-to-one perspective, again, we can guide you in terms of looking at what your options are and what the scenario is, and different outcomes that you can use based on our knowledge and our experience that we have. And what you said in terms of having someone to talk to and to bounce ideas off, again, that can be done in a one-to-one setting. In the case of these particular graduates, we were able to go back and look at templates that could be used and could be suggested as a way forward. You shouldn't have to do that. I think at that level, I think there's an expectation that most people are going to work in a organisation that has some form of PMO, some level of maturity, but it's not always the case. Yeah. So use our expertise, use our skills. If you do have any issues, you can also talk to us on a one-to-one basis as well.
Yeah, exactly. Use the QR code on screen now, scan it, and you can join the collective, or you can book a one-to-one coaching call with us, and we will be here to help you so that you are not caught out with any of these red flags. And this is not just for project managers, because if you're a business analyst, if you're a test analyst, and these kinds of scenarios that we've been talking about. So as a business analyst, you would be part of preparing for UAT. And so this is happening. It's part of you showing your expertise, that you would flag it to the project manager that, hey, this is not the right way to be going about this.
Yeah.
If you're a test analyst and they're now trying to barrel through, there's no test plan, nothing. Again, it's your role to say, hey, this is not the right way. This is what I'm suggesting that we should do, because always we want to come with some solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't just think, oh, this is the PM's problem. No. In projects, you have a role, right?
Indeed. I think another red flag related to change, but also slightly separate, is when people are wanting to spend money left, right, and centre, or going out and spending money. And it's an issue not just in terms of, okay, there's no change control process there for finance, but actually what kind of budgetary or financial management is going on? Do you actually know what your budget is, how much you spent? Can you go to project board and show us that? Because I've been to project boards recently, and stakeholders have said, well, how much have we spent? And there's one figure on the project board pack, and then lots of explanation and no transparency from the sponsor or from the project manager. Red flag. We don't know how much money we spent. You don't know how much money you spent. Can we actually afford to deliver this project?
Yeah.
Big red flag.
Big red flag. Yes, huge. And again, and this is one of the things, it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but I think that the people we're talking to are people who want to be great at their job. They're people who don't want to be coasters. So let's say you're a delivery manager or a scrum master, you wouldn't necessarily have responsibility for the budget, but find out who does and make sure that there is somebody who is managing the budget, so that down the line, this scenario that you've just talked about, Elena, is not happening. And then you'll be saying, well, it wasn't my role anyway. No, 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 no. You should know that somebody has management of the budget and knows what they're doing with the budget, even though it's not your direct responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're in that realm of being good at what you're doing and you want to make sure that what you're part of is going to be successful, make those inquiries. Yes, you're a scrum master. Yes, you're a delivery manager. It's not your responsibility, but find out that somebody is doing something about it.
Indeed. And there's a red flag for me. I have lots of red flags today. You can see I'm in that sort of mood. Is when you're sitting in a board as well, and stakeholders have got expectations, and they're saying, well, when am I going to see this? When am I going to see that? And you're like, where did these expectations come from? And then obviously it's about, the project manager needs to go back to what the scope was, what the requirements were, and, where have these lovely ideas that you're going to get this suddenly come from? And, there are lots of ways in terms of how you got to that situation. If your stakeholders are asking for, flying unicorns, and flying unicorns were never, ever mentioned at all. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so what can you do to try and combat that?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things, but one of the things it indicates that you probably didn't do in the beginning was set your success criterion, was get everybody on board to say, these are the objectives and this is what we agree to, and this is what the final outcome is going to be, and these are what the benefits are going to be. It's kind of indicative that maybe that work wasn't done or wasn't done clearly. Where you can bring everybody back to something that has been documented and agreed, I think that's what's needed. And to refer people back to the scope and to go through that wisdom, maybe outside of a board, just so that everybody's clear and everybody knows exactly what to expect. Yeah. And then if it is something that they do want, again, change control process. Yeah. Is there something that can be added to the scope? Yeah. Would you deal with it in the same way?
I would, and I would always be talking about that success criteria and bringing it up regularly. So if I'm delivering an agile project, it would be at every show and tell. I'd be starting every show and tell referring back to, so this is our success criteria. This is what this project is about. And, that frames what the show and tell is. And because at some show and tells, you then get requests for new things. And then again, you can bring that back to how does that fit in with the success criteria for this project? And yes, maybe, as you said, it has a genuine sort of lead link into it, or sometimes a completely new requirement has come up or need has come up. Then you have to go through that good old change control process. And never, ever, ever, I've just, you've seen it time and time when, the PM just goes, okay, but no. No. Eventually it will bite the butt of like, oh, so you went ahead and did this thing. The money's finished. But this the actual thing that the project was set up for, you haven't been able to deliver it because you went off track without any due diligence and delivered all this stuff. And nobody's going to be calling that the person who gave you all those requirements, and they're not going to be calling their name. They're going to be you. Yep. So I would always refer back to the success criteria as often as I can. It needs to be front and center in everybody's mind. This is what we're doing. This is why we're here for this thing.
And nothing else.
And nothing else. If you want, it goes on the backlog. And after it's gone through a proper change control, it can be brought in. Or sometimes you've seen it, Alina, where that thing now kicks off a separate project, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So what else? You've got your bag of red flags.
I don't know, actually. I think I probably just blurted out everything. So I'll let you add to any red flags.
I would say a red flag is when either your sponsor or your manager, and this is a kind of a balance, they just leave you to it.
Yeah.
Because, I think go-getters like us and the people we're talking to, you have no problem with working on, under your own steam. You take initiative and you go for it. And you don't really need any kind of close management. But that's different from being just left to it. Completely. That's very, very different. And then every now and then they will then swoop in to drop some bomb or the other. That's a huge red flag, because not only are they not going to give you any support, they will be, as I said, dropping bombs frequently that will put you in trouble. And then if anything happens, they're just going to be like, remove themselves completely, take no responsibility or ownership, and just serve you up. So that's a huge red flag. So for me, what I do in that situation is I always provide updates to them. So they're never going to be able to say, I did not know.
Agreed, yeah.
So whether they don't want to have meetings or whatnot, but I'm putting in my weekly status report. I'm putting it in so that it's there. And what you choose to do with it, that's your business, but it's there, and I'm making sure that I am networking with other people within the project, so that they see what I'm doing. They have an understanding of the level of involvement of said person, and try and make it a bit so it's not all undercover, because those people that they'll swoop into a meeting or and giving the impression that they're involved like that on a regular basis. So you have to they're not. You have to do your own bit of promotion to counter that. Have you ever had those kind of people?
Yeah, definitely. I remember there's a really, really large program I was delivering, and the sponsor was amazing. And then all of a sudden, he was given additional responsibility to take on a new directorate, and he just disappeared. He just disappeared, and I was like, what is going on? And what you suggested is exactly what I did. However, I knew already that he was a type of sponsor whereby, I would give him a report, and if he's got time to read it, he'll read it. So I actually had to schedule meetings to go through my report with him. And he was one of those people, if I ever had anything that I needed to discuss with him, or, where the board pack was due, etc., I would sit down and have that meeting and go through it with him, because otherwise it would just get lost in the ether as emails. But yeah, it's the approach you take to make sure they are getting that updated information, regardless of whether they've got 21,000 things to do. They are still accountable at the end of the day. In relation to that as well, another red flag is where someone up here has decided that there should be more than one sponsor to your project or program. And the issue is there's a few. Does anybody who's made that decision understand what the role of a sponsor is? And then also, the reason they brought another one or two sponsors onto it is because someone's having a disagreement somewhere, and they think that by giving somebody additional leadership or accountability, it's going to make things easier. And it doesn't. So it's a red flag that actually something else is going on in the wider political environment. and you need to be prepared that all this additional rubbish is going to come your way, and it's, you know, looking at how you're going to deal with them while still focusing on delivering what it is that you've got to deliver.
Yeah, exactly. Another red flag is no matter what your role is in the project, and you have people who are circumventing the process. So even if you have a flat structure, so to speak, let me give an example of you're a BA and you have stakeholders that just keep coming to you for things that are clearly for the project manager. It's like, why? Why are you doing that? Or you're the PM and say your BA has run some workshops and some stakeholder has an issue with something that happened and they don't come to the BA first, they come straight to you. Why? To me, those are red flags. That person, what's going on with you? So it's like people red flags, personality red flags.
I am one of those red flags. So just be, I mean, and anyone watching this video who's delivered for me, they will know if I'm like at a director level or a program manager level, when I really, 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 really want to know what's going on, I will go to my BAs. Because, you know, the BAs have got the down low on everything that's going on and what really is working, whatever. But, you know, I know, and they've said to me, you know, why don't you speak to the project manager? No, I'm not going to. I know the project manager. My project managers are good. They would tell me exactly what. Well, not exactly what I want to hear. You know, they would tell me what's going wrong and everything else. You know, if something is going wrong. But if I want to get to the minutiae of, you know, occasionally, I would go to the BA. So I am one of those red flag people, and I apologise in advance for my behaviour.
So, how would we solve the problem of Alina going to? I think this comes back to, have you done your stakeholder analysis correctly and understood that Alina likes this level of detail for when it comes to this kind of thing, she wants this level of detail. So I think the way to have solved it is that you should have understood that this is what this kind of stakeholder is like. This is what they need. Therefore, provide them with that level of information, and then she won't go off to the BAs, skipping how many levels to go find out that information. So all these red flags, there's ways to solve them. There's ways to solve them. And sometimes if the person continues to do that, you're even providing that information, they continue to do that, have a chat and say, hey, what are you needing? What do you want?
Yep.
Have that chat, and that person is then aware that you're not keen on them doing that, and I believe they would make an effort to then communicate to you, okay, I need this in this way or whatnot. And you can then hope that things will improve from there.
Yeah. But just to say as well, I think that just goes to show that sometimes as a project manager, you might think, oh, I've done something wrong. And sometimes it is just a person's, whoever's asking for that information, it is their personality. It's not necessarily a you issue. But like you say, there are things that you can counteract that, but don't feel you failed because actually she skipped talking to me and gone straight to the BA, Yeah.
Exactly. Another red flag, because it's not just about other people. Sometimes you are a red flag, and not in the way that you described. And I'm talking about you, the BA or PM, DM, whatever, that is rigid. You are rigid, and it's all about step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. In real life projects, come on. it's not always going to flow like that. Lots of
No.
times it's not going to flow like that. So you really, really need to be adaptable in the true sense of the word. And you need to know how you can flex up, flex down, flex sideways in the project to make it work. So if you are the type of person that like, nope, there is no step 1A, so I'm not doing it, you're a red flag and you're going to cause your project to have problems.
Yeah. In conclusion, there are many red flags that can occur in your projects or programs. We've touched on a few, probably the ones that are niggling us most at the moment. But if you do need any help in either identifying these red flags or looking at how to solve those red flags, contact us. Join the collective, join the community, get other people's perspectives on how these issues can be solved, or speak to us on a one-to-one basis. We're here to support you. Until next time.